in order to navigate uncertainty, we need better risk assessments. We've talked about that at length. But we also have to be able to talk. And it sounds so fundamental. A gigantic part of our work is in a difficult situation, in a time of uncertainty, inserting ourselves in between some of the key leaders as they actually encouraging them to talk through very challenging issues.
Well, and that's because what we often see is that when people know it's going to be a rough conversation and there's uncertainty involved, like everything about it they want to avoid. So you've got leadership who doesn't want to show up to the meetings to have the conversations. And we're like, come on. We're like basically pushing them through the door. And they're like the golden retriever who's holding on to like the door frame, like going, I'm not going in there.
Oh, right. I want to go to the vets.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy how debilitating uncertainty is to effective conversations. We're put off those challenging conversations because we have the calculus off and we think they're going to be worse than they actually are. Back to assessments again.
Yeah, and I think it's also just really debilitating to organizations because the other thing that happens with uncertainty is because people don't like it, they don't like individual uncertainty, they are drawn to a group that will provide them certainty. So if you're an organization disrupting your pay system, like that's not you could sit there and you could try to work it out, but to the degree that they still feel uncertainty and this other job is a sure thing, even if they might possibly be getting paid less, they'll take the sure thing because people do not like. That is one of the main drivers that drives people to identify with a group is the degree to which you provide certainty. And it doesn't even have to be good certainty. It doesn't have to be something that works out for you. It doesn't have to be legitimate. The certainty could be completely unprovable. But because they provide a sense of certainty, you're drawn to them.
Yeah. It's funny how people dedicated to an organization and each other will still avoid hard conversations when the outcome is uncertain. And it's not that people are weak or it's not that organizations.
I just don't think they even realize the impact it has on them. I think a lot of the things we do, we do subconsciously to avoid uncertainty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think about our life, right? And we've had a lot of uncertainty. So obviously we try to live our life consistent with these principles that the science suggests to be true, and then our experience in organizations has shown. And so this idea of communication breakdown happening as uncertainty increases, we were deliberate as we were dealing with basically, there's a certain amount of uncertainty just in our own business. Then you added my dad's dementia, and then you added your mom, her health, and then needing to move out of New Hampshire, and then you working on the kind of family side business that you were doing. Like all of these things, when we sat down and said, look, we need to make sure that we're having the conversations that we need to have and we're having them in the right way. Because you don't want your conversation driven by people being upset. In a perfect world, we'd be checking in periodically and talking about, do we still have the right business strategy? Are we getting tired? How's the marriage doing? And not wait until one of us is mad and we feel like something's out of whack. And that same thing happens in organizations.
Right.
We're trying to not convene the meeting of all of our sales reps because they're mad and they're calling us all weekend.
You want to get
That's
ahead
right.
of that. Like,
that's right.
Who wants to have relationships where people are mad?
Yeah.
But
that's a good word.
But
people get mad.
Yeah. But I mean, like, it's understandable too, because like with the uncertainty, there's also like a lot of inefficiency. Like with uncertainty, you don't know the right way to behave. And so you're spending all sorts of energy trying to work through uncertainty, trying to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But like, it's not a straight line. The path is not clear.
Right.
And so on top of all like the psychological reasons why you might not have a conversation, there's also just like everybody is extraordinarily busy. And so you just have to make it a priority because otherwise everything else is going to eat up all the time and there will never be a conversation.
Yeah, I was thinking about when you talk about the inefficiency of uncertainty, I was thinking about what happens when you put a pay change on. It's just an example. I mean, we can use any kind of change in an organization. You know, the same thing happens if a company's thinking about selling itself or getting bought or there's a new CEO. That's all people talk about. And so.
And it impacts like the stock market, like the price of the stock and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you tell people you're changing their pay, then that's all they're talking about at work. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but they're spending a lot of time at work talking about that. They're thinking about it when they're not at work. They're fielding now offers from, people, depending on what your people are doing, they're getting emails all the time asking if they want a new job. And so now they're going to start to entertain that. They're going to spend some time talking to a headhunter. And so all this is happening in the place of where they would have been working before. Mm-hmm. And that's a gigantic source of inefficiency that if we can get ahead of some of it, can't get ahead of all of it. I mean, I think there's a statistic I read a couple of years ago about when a CEO leaves, a third of the senior leaders leave within the next 18 months. And that's normal, like across industries as an average. And some of those people are leaving because of uncertainty. Some of them are leaving because they didn't get the job. Some of them are leaving because they stayed a couple years longer to go out with the boss. So there's a variety of reasons, but there's a percentage of people you're losing because they can't stand the uncertainty. And that is a completely normal reaction that causes an inefficiency in organizations.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. What else?
I think that's it. I think we're going to wrap up on that.
Okay.
All right. So if you've made it this far, you know what to do. You need to check whether or not you're subscribed.
Yep. If you like some of the tips from our conversation on uncertainty, there's a book for that written by two people you may know, Geoff and Cindi. Available everywhere. Books are sold. Also available on eggheadpress.com. Amazon, everywhere.
Everywhere.
It'll help you make better sense of a chaotic world and not feel like you're always reacting. Uncertainty Playbook, 14 strategies for success in a chaotic world.